And we need to consider roaming, especially if you're using a voice over WLAN. As I've been saying, access points have coverage zones. So if you're on your voice over Wi-Fi phone and you're walking around in a campus or a big building, and you move from one coverage zone to another, and then you need to disconnect from the first access point and connect to the second access point. We call that roaming. And the connection between the device and the access point is disrupted, but the connection between the device and the internet technically is not disrupted, and that's because, you know, the Wi-Fi card has all kinds of like firmware, and the internet itself has all kinds of software. It doesn't necessarily close a connection unless one party doesn't hear back from the other party for a long period of time. On a phone line, it's much worse though. So you need to have a roaming period that's less than 150 milliseconds, which is doable. And what I mean by that, this guy doesn't have a phone, but he's connected to our first access point here. And if he decides to take a walk, he ends up here, and now he disconnects from the first access point, and his laptop connects to the second access point. So he's okay, but we need to make sure that the overlap between the two access points is high enough that he doesn't experience a disruption in his connection. On a laptop, he's okay, but on a phone, he may experience a dropped call, and that will be very frustrating. And the other thing we need to consider when roaming is the IP address. So we're hoping that all of your access points are on the same subnet, but on a large network that's scattered everywhere, depending on how it was configured, the access points may be on different subnets. So if a device moves from a first access point to the second one, and it's on a different subnet, then it doesn't get to keep its IP address. It has to get a new IP address on the new subnet. And that's totally irritating, but it's fixable. You can run a program called Proxy ARP or Mobile IP, and they solve that problem for you, and they do that by holding on to the old IP address and then getting your device a second IP address on the new subnet and forwarding the traffic.